Hey guys, Justin here with JHart Modelworks. It is way past time for a bench update. I haven't posted a video in a couple of weeks. To be honest, I'm finding it kind of hard at the moment to find time to record. The house is always full of people. But, we're going to do what we can. The Lamborghini Countach is completely finished, but we're not going to do a final video on that yet. We're going to wait for Kyle to finish up on his. So that is just set off to the side for right now. I am very happy with how that turned out. I have another build planned. I really want to get started on it. But before I start on another car, I was supposed to be working on this Corsair while working on the Ferrari buddy build with Mike, and I did very little on it. I was supposed to work on the Corsair while I was doing the Lamborghini buddy build with Kyle, and I did very, very little on it. So before I start another project, another car, we're going to definitely work on, we're going to finish up the Corsair. We're pretty much ready for final assembly. Now, before we get to the bench and start taking a look at our progress on the Corsair, I want to give a huge farewell shout out to Frank from Frank's Modelworks. For reasons that are Frank's, Frank has decided that he's going to be leaving YouTube for a bit. Frank, I am sad to see you go. You were a wealth of knowledge. You were incredibly entertaining. I absolutely loved your channel. In the short time that we interacted and conversed, I felt like we became friends. Now, without further ado, let's go ahead and get the camera flipped around and take a look at what we got on the bench. Alright, we're going to start with all the small stuff and we're going to save the best for last. Everything is painted up, everything is ready to go. I could have this plane finished up this weekend. Honestly, I could have this plane finished Friday before this video even comes out. But like I said, everything is painted and ready to go. We're going to start with the small stuff first, and we're going to save the best for last. There's not a whole lot to go through. So we have our rear landing gear. All of the white is done in Splash Paint's Insignia White. They're doing military colors, and these are fantastic. I really was happy with how these turned out. The tires, of course, are in Tamiya's Rubber Black, and we've got our little arresting cable hook for landing on the carrier. I went ahead and did the inside of that in silver as if that white paint had been scraped off. I also used some silver to just hit some bolts and a little bit of details here and there. Kind of happy with how that worked out. There's a mask set. I'll talk about that when I get to the windows here in a minute. But there's a mask set for these wheels that is really helpful. Similarly, we have our front landing gears. Again, we just kind of hit some details in there, threw in some panel line wash on everything. Those are looking really good. Everything's assembled up and are ready to go in. Similarly, we have our inside painted for our landing gear bay. I keep wanting to call them wheel wells because that's what you call them on cars. But landing gear bay doors are done. I think these were done before. I don't know if I showed you or not. Here is the front half of the engine. There's another piece of the engine that is inside the fuselage. You have to put it in there before you glue the fuselage together or you'll never be able to get it in. So that was in there and was masked off, and this is left out. And we have the propeller. The propeller is actually Splash Paint's Candy Black over, I forget what silver it is. There is a pearl white that I did for the nose bit of the propeller, and then Mr. Hobby's super rich gold on the tips there. Candy Black always seems more like a really dark candy blue, in my opinion. And we have our cockpit glass. Now, awesomely, Academy does not have a seam that runs through the center, so we didn't have to clean that up. All the paint is done. Looks fantastic. And like I said, there is a mask set that I bought for this. It is the Montex mini mask for Academy's F4U-4 Corsair. There's your item code. These masks were spot on. There is a set of interior masks and exterior masks, as well as inner and outer wheel masks for both the front and rear landing gears. These were awesome, so pick this up if you're doing this kit. You will not regret it. And again, like I said, just the masking is spot on. Now for the plane itself. Take it off my little stand here. So this is what I did for the paint. So again, we got that splash insignia white for our landing gear base. And the underside of this is Tamiya's light gunmetal. I did not want an actual official military paint job. The origin of hot rodding really starts out with guys coming back from the war. They had some money, they hadn't had expenses for the last couple of years, the government has been giving them a check, and they bought things and were souping them up. They were buying, you know, Model A Fords or not Model T Fords, whatever they could get their hands on, throwing engines in them, souping them up, and that's really where hot rodding came from. So who's to say that one of those guys didn't have the money, managed to do well in life, got a hold of an old Corsair that he used to fly, and souped it up, gave it a paint job, and turned it into an airplane racer, which actually gets done today. I am missing the tail number that I want to put on here. That's the only thing that is not painted up on this body right now. I used to have access to a Cricut machine, and I was going to cut a vinyl mask for my tail number, and the tail number is going to be the letter N, because all U.S. civilian planes start with the letter N. And then it is 4 or 5 letter or number characters. So I was going to do, you know how I do my registration stickers on my cars to do the month and the year that I finished the build. I was going to do 0625 for March, or not March, June 2025. So it's going to be N2025S for Skiggles, which is my daughter's nickname. However, her girlfriend sold her Cricut machine, so I no longer have access to one. It's not something that I would use regularly enough, so I may just go to Hobby Lobby and see if I can find some masks that I can use to make this. I don't know. We'll see what we can do. So the first thing we did was we masked off the cockpit area in here. So what I did was I masked the sides off from the inside, and I stuffed about a half of a cotton ball in here to act as support and just kind of stuffing, and filled the cockpit area. I then came back in and masked over this edge here and made sure that the tape that I used for that touched the tape on the inside here. So it was sticky side out, and then masked over it. And I tucked that underneath that little lip here so that I would have that be able to paint this part. That's how I ended up masking it off. So then we went and we did Mr. Surfacer 1500 black primer. It's my go-to. I use it for almost everything. After the black primer, we followed that up with some Zero Paints Extra Fine Silver Candy Base. I have a love-hate relationship with this stuff. It is really hot, so it can craze plastic if you're not careful with it. It's also hard to get a hold of in the States, because trying to find anyone actually selling Zero who has it in stock and isn't going to make you wait 3 months before they order again is kind of difficult. So I've got this bottle, and that's what I used. After the zero candy base, I used some sheet plastic, and I started playing with doing the flames. I've never done flames before. This, however, is the whole reason I got that Harder & Steinbeck airbrush. I wanted a detail airbrush for doing these flames. I started out with some Alclad steel. It's a really dark, kind of brownish, metallic, blackish color. And I just did some long, wispy, kind of curvy strokes in there to darken it up, because nothing would show up against this bright silver if I didn't. So that gave me the dark. I then mixed some of that with some Mr. Hobby Super Metallic Super Iron, and that gave me my medium color, and I used that mix and kind of started defining my flames using a mask that I found online. I printed it out on some cardstock that I got for like less than $1 at Hobby Lobby, cut that out and used that as my curve template for my flames, and I started defining my flames. I then went in and I used Mr. Hobby Super Duraluminum as my bright silver to get the highlights in there. So all the really bright spots are that Super Duraluminum. I could have come in with some white to get some really bright highlights. I didn't. I almost didn't do the flames at all, to be honest with you. I was doing them on the sheet plastic. I wasn't having a real good time with it. I was struggling. I was about to chicken out. I messaged my buddy Diedrich. I was like, dude, I'm going to give up on this. I'm not doing real well. I don't know. And he's like, dude, you were doing just fine. Stop practicing. Just do it. You got this. And that was the kick in the butt that I needed to just start laying everything down with my dark black, my steel, and then the steel and iron mix, and doing that duraluminum. And I got them laid out, and I'm really happy with how they turned out, especially for these being my first flames. I think that turned out, like I said, I've never done flames before, so I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. Once that was all dried and cured up, I then came back in with some more Splash Paints Sparkle Candy Blue. Love Splash Paints candies. They are fantastic. Did about 4 coats of the candy blue over the entire plane and let that sit. The next day I came in and I used Scale Finishes 2K Clear Coat. Not sure how I feel about it. It went down a little thick in some places. I kind of felt like I was struggling with it. I didn't get as smooth a finish as I normally do. I think that may just be me. I'm not entirely certain. I may have just not been spraying it right. There's still some orange peel in here, but after letting that cure for about 2 days, I then came back, I sanded and polished. I didn't go crazy with the sanding. I didn't want to sand through the clear on all these little raised ridges. There's just so many raised details that I did not want to hit. I just didn't want to tear through and ruin the paint job. So I took a good deal of the orange peel out, but it's not like a perfect show car quality full gloss, but that's okay because it's an airplane. So after that, after all the clear coat was done and it was sanded and polished back out, I came back, I masked off to do the underbelly. And I did this using Tamiya's lacquer. It's LP20, I believe, is the light gunmetal. And so I did all of this with that. I also masked off and did the wingtips, the top of the vertical rear stabilizer, and the front engine cowl. in Mr. Hobby Super Rich Gold. That's going to look fantastic. There's the inside portion of the engine. That's the part that you have to assemble in the body when you're putting the fuselage in around the cockpit. You also have to put that in. And then just this evening, this is Thursday night when I'm recording this. You won't see it till Saturday morning, but just this evening I finished up the landing gear base with that insignia white. So all the paintwork is done at this point. Now I 3D modeled and printed up the stand. I think I showed you guys this in the last update, but this has been super helpful. I did break one of the points off here. Sadly, it's a one-time use because it's designed specifically for the holes in this plane. I don't really have a way to make it modular, but all the way through the paint, I was just able to, I had some blue tack in there holding these in place, but I was able to twist it and turn it, any angle I wanted, switch to the front. I mean, it was, with the blue tack in place, it held to go upside down, and it kept me from breaking these little bits off on the bottom again. I've had to replace both of these with 3D modeled and printed bits that I made up because I just kept breaking these. So yeah, that's a wrap. That's where we are at with this. All we have left is the final assembly, and we're going to be done probably next week. I may or may not do the final on this next week. I may do the unboxing for our next build for the car section, and that is going to be another Fujimi kit, but it's not an enthusiast kit. It's going to be the Ferrari F355 GTS. So that looks like that's going to be a nice, fun, easy, relaxed build. I'm not going to go crazy with it. After doing that Enthusiast Series Lamborghini, not the Aventador, the Countach, that kit is, like, all the Enthusiast Series kits are intense. Really high parts count. Everything is a part. Like, every tiny little detail. I want something just light, fun, easy, and refreshing, and I think that little curbside is going to be exactly what I'm looking for. Thanks for hanging out with me, guys. I always appreciate you watching the videos, and I'm going to catch you guys on the next one.